Alkaline-Keto Diet Optimized with Laura Rimmer, subtitled How to Optimize Your Alkaline Keto Diet, Episode 90, Alternative Health Tools Podcast.
I'm your host, Lisa Victoria, and I'm joined today with the wonderful Laura Rimmer. And today we're talking about keto and how this can benefit your life and how we can get this into your life and enhance your life through keto. So welcome, Laura. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Hi there, Lisa. Thank you. Yes, thanks for having me on. Really excited for this.
And just to start, I've listened to a lot of your podcasts recently, but to give a bit of a background, you just want to talk us through your journey and why you're so passionate about this topic.
Great. Yes, thank you. So I am a big advocate of natural health and healing and diet. And that's been a journey of about 20 years at this point for me. So I'll give you the kind of relatively whistle-stop tour of my experience, because now I had my 40th birthday a couple of weeks ago. And where
Happy
I am
birthday.
right now, thank you. By the grace of God, I'm healthy, vibrant, energized, have good sleep, all that kind of stuff. But that's vastly different from where I came from. So when I was a student at university studying law started in 1998, after only several months away from home in a new environment, living with other students and kind of experiencing newfound freedom, I guess, only several months into that, eating the wrong stuff. So eating fast foods, we were catered. I was in a catered halls of residence. So typically I call it brown, stodgy food. So, lots of mash and chips and sausages and just these convenience type foods every day, coupled with smoking about 10 cigarettes a day, drinking too much alcohol. So again, being away from home, just partying many nights in the week. After a couple months of that, my health started going downhill quite rapidly. So was just tired all of the time, waking up late. It didn't help that I only had kind of several hours of university lectures each week. So I had a lot of spare time. And so I was just wasting that time, in all honesty. And after about 6 months or so, I woke up one day and I had this rash on my legs and it was super itchy. And I tried to just ignore it, but it wouldn't go away. So I went to our student doctor and he asked me some questions and did a little diagnosis and said, "Oh, that's alcohol poisoning."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I thought, hold on. Isn't that what alcoholics get? Like I'm studying law. how does this happen? And he was like, "Oh, this is a really common occurrence. A lot of students get it." So he gave me some tablets and away I went. But I thought, no, things have got to change here. That's not right. My parents have personally spent a lot of money on me going to university. I had a student loan. I wanted to finish my degree. And it just was a real wake-up call that I'm 19 years old and I'm experiencing lethargy and ill health and weight gain and bad skin and all that stuff. I need to make some changes. So that was a turning point for me. So I joined a gym, stopped eating the kind of stodgy foods that I was served in the halls of residence, cut down on my fast food, just started making really simple changes with my cooking and things. At that point, I knew nothing about nutrition, but I thought, well, a good start has got to be surely just buying some vegetables and rice and chicken and tuna and whatever else and making my own meals. So I started with kind of basic stir fries and that type of stuff and joined a gym. And over, I don't know, the next month or so, I felt a lot better. I started losing weight. So just very simple changes to begin with had quite a big impact. So that was really motivating for me. So I kind of stopped partying as much with my friends. The gym really helped with that, because if I knew I'd be running on a treadmill the next day, and I found that super hard because I was really unfit, I thought, I want to give myself the best chance. So I'm not going to go out and get really drunk or whatever the night before. So that was encouraging. When I left university, I continued on that path and started. There was a lady at the gym I joined when I moved back to the West Country in the UK. Mm-hmm. And she noticed I was running quite a lot. And she said, why don't you put yourself in for a half marathon race? And I thought, me? I'm not sure about that. I was always the kid at school that got picked last for everything. So the fact that someone was saying to me, you could be kind of in effect a sports person, you could do a running race, was quite alien to me, but she was really encouraging. So I did. I put myself in for a half marathon race, trained for it, ran it, felt like I was going to die most of the way around. But when I finished, I just had that sense of, wow, I've just run 13 miles and I feel good afterwards. And, I can do this. So that was the beginning of my endurance running kind of career, if you like. So from there, I went on to do several marathons and even an ultra marathon in 2014 of 32 miles. So, that was a long journey of about 10 years. And as the years went on and the months, I would use myself as a guinea pig. So I would experiment with, okay, if I'm going to be running 10 miles today or 15 miles or 2 miles or whatever, how can I optimize my diet for speed, performance, recovery, prevention of injury, good sleep, good skin, weight loss, all that kind of stuff. So I used myself as this nutritional guinea pig for about a decade. And would say, okay, if I up my protein levels, how does that affect things? If I up my fat, reduce my carbs, how does that affect things? So I got to the point where I was like, okay, I think a diet that's rich in vegetables and healthy fruits and things was really working for me. Yeah. So I got into the alkaline diet. I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, Unleash the Power Within, in 2008, I think it was. And he was talking about this thing, the alkaline diet. And when he explained it and the fact that our body needs alkaline minerals, so specifically potassium, calcium, magnesium, sodium, and the types of foods that those are in, I thought, this is the diet I've naturally found through my years of experimentation. So I went on that alkaline diet path, really kind of as far as it goes, I would say, to the point where I pretty much only ate leafy green vegetables, healthy fats and oils, some fruits and nuts, but I went completely plant-based vegan.
And I guess that's what we're going to talk about today, isn't it? Is that alkaline kind of way of life. So if anyone's thinking, I'm not sure what this is all about, hold tight, sit tight. You're going to learn so much more about it from the lovely Laura. And just before you move on, Laura, there's so much that I resonate with you and your story, talking about going to university. It was just me as well. And, the access to the fast foods and convenience foods. And for me, it was chronic fatigue syndrome that I got at university rather than a skin rash. And it does put that stake in the ground, doesn't it? To say, hang on a minute, alarm bells, something's got to change. So it resonates a lot with me, and I'm sure it resonates with a lot of people out there too.
Yeah, totally. That's often the student path, isn't it? And it, I don't know, a side issue, but it doesn't help, does it? Because universities kind of serve this food, they encourage you to go on these student nights out. And I found personally, and again, this is a bit of a side issue, but it's worth mentioning, just, as a young person trying to make their way at university, if you're not out partying every night, I found that if I wasn't doing that stuff, I wasn't making friends. So there's a kind of underlying peer pressure, isn't there, to be
the social interaction side of it, isn't there? That's what people do. They sleep most of the day, like you say, turn up for 7 hours of lecture, and the rest of the time is yours free to party.
yeah.
And I think another thing you said in terms of like you stumbled across like the nutrition, and then, you know, how can I help myself and being your own guinea pig? That's exactly my journey. And
is it?
I kind of look back, and as a fellow nutritionist, it's kind of heartbreaking for me when people come to us now, I guess, and say, I've got this problem to fix. It's like, I wish you could prevent it rather than actually come when it needs fixing. So we can perhaps talk about that today in terms of who it's for. It's not just for people who've got conditions. It's about that, you know, prevention as well, isn't it, I guess?
Absolutely, because the report from the CDC in the US, Centers for Disease Control, one of their big reports, which came out in 2015, but has been kind of confirmed every year since then, shows that, and this is a really shocking statistic, and although it's from the US, that can equally apply to the UK and other places in Europe and around the world, which says that in the US alone, 90 million people have pre-diabetes and metabolic syndrome. So for anyone who doesn't know, pre-diabetes is what it says on the tin. It's that period where something's going wrong in your body, specifically with blood sugar and insulin and a degree of insulin resistance, that if left unchecked will go to full-blown type 2 diabetes within 5 years.
Yeah.
And of those 90 million people, 90% of them are unaware they have it. So that means that there's millions of people walking around thinking that they're okay, but actually it's just a kind of ticking time bomb of this, you know, big health issue ready to manifest at any point.
It's a massive issue, isn't it? I read an article the other day, and it was 1 in 2 people are pre-diabetic, like you say, and 1 in 2 people have got precancerous cells. And it's like they're walking around, like you say, a time bomb waiting to go off, eating all the wrong foods, which we're going to talk about today. But it's the stress, and it's you know, it's healthy living all round, I guess, isn't it? But we're focusing on nutrition today, and it's a wake up call to everybody to think, well, I could be one of those people that just doesn't know that you know, I'm about to get a health condition in the next 5 years. It's really scary.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
I guess that's why we're both so passionate about it.
yeah, totally. Because there was a period in my life as well where it was about 3 years where I saw 6 family members degenerate with their health very rapidly and then die. Yeah. So there was this period where I seemed to be in and out of hospital watching people die. And I'm very inquisitive. I research. I'm a critical thinker. So when I found myself in these hospitals, I didn't just focus on the person I was there, you know, in my own family. I would look around and see, okay, there's a ward here full of other people all dying.
What's going on?
And I'd ask them questions and I'd just observe. And the one thing that really hit me was this look in people's eyes of fear and regret, actually. And having conversations, people would say, if only I, you know, had made some changes, if only I'd known what to do, you know. And at the point of where they're on their deathbed dying, you know, it's really too late at that point, isn't it? So that was another big thing that got me really passionate about nutrition, because so many of these diseases are absolutely preventable with the right lifestyle and diet. So.
And some of them reversible, but it's harder to reverse than prevent, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing. And I guess back to your journey, because we got up to the point where you'd been to see Tony Robbins and you'd started the alkaline diet. So where did you take it from there?
Yeah, so I spent 6 years as a vegan, went full on into a plant-based diet. And for the first couple of years, I would say that really worked for me. And I think it will work for most people. Where we are now, you know, you can't help but see advertisements, promotions, media campaigns, newspaper articles on things like embracing a meat-free Monday and cutting back on meat and embracing plant-based things, and how we're going to save the planet by us all kind of reducing our meat consumption. And I think, well, there's a lot of political propaganda involved with that, but that might be for, a separate conversation. But what will happen is, and I've had a lot of experience with this, with people who've been full on vegan, come in and out of veganism, is for anyone who's been following a kind of standard Western diet, just a general normal diet, going into a plant-based diet, there will be a period where you feel better, have more energy, and you might think, wow, this is great, as I did for about 2 years. So I ran several marathons as a plant-based vegan and felt good on it. But after a couple of years, and vegans would say, plant-based people would say that you can get all the nutrients our body needs from plants. You just need to eat the right foods. And I bought into that and thought that's absolutely true. But what I found was, after about a couple of years, things started not necessarily going wrong, but there were warning signs that I wasn't experiencing the great health that I did initially when I found that lifestyle. So, for example, my hands and feet were always cold, and I think that was probably a thyroid problem. I started experiencing insomnia quite badly. My recovery time with my running, so at that point I was running, a lot of marathons and things. So quite extreme exercise by most people's standards. But I was noticing that my recovery time was getting higher. My injuries were getting more frequent. My time in terms of my running pace, I was getting slower and slower. So I knew that at that point, okay, I'm not sure this is working. And I thought, I'm just doing it wrong. I need to just eat more vegetables, or I don't know. I thought that I just needed to optimize my plant-based diet. But then another few years on, I thought I knew that wasn't the case, and this wasn't going to work long term. And I saw a lot of people, you only have to do a quick YouTube search of why I'm no longer vegan, or ex-vegan testimonies of people who've had exactly the same experience. It's worked for a while, and then they've come out of it. Because actually we can't get all of the nutrients we need exclusively from plants. So, for example, and this is where the nuance comes in, and Lisa, you'll know about this as a nutritionist, it's not as blanket easy as people think. So an example, vegans will say that you can get vitamin A from plants. And you can get some, but actually the form which is most bioavailable to our body is found in retinol, which is only found or predominantly in animal-based foods. And that's just one example of a myriad of things which the most beneficial form of a nutrient from our body is not found from plant-based sources. So that's where I really started digging into the research again, really and trying to open my mind up to, okay, is there anything I've been missing here? And I'm a Christian, so, I started praying at that point. Okay, Lord, give me some wisdom on this. And actually in prayer, I was led to the Weston A Price Foundation, which someone had alerted me to years ago. But as a vegan, I very kind of briefly looked at this website, the Weston A Price Foundation, and determined that the lady who runs it was overweight. She wasn't fit. She wasn't running marathons like I was. So in my pride, I thought, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. I do, and ignored her stuff. But when I took a second look at it, I got it. I thought, okay, this does make sense. So the organization is based around the work of a dentist from the early 1900s called Weston A Price. And towards the end of his career in dentistry, he, as he was retiring, he decided that in his retirement, he was going to try and prove a hypothesis he had, which was, having seen, probably thousands of people and their teeth, he wondered, why do some people have rotting, decaying teeth in their 20s and 30s, and other people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s have glowing white, healthy, strong teeth? And his thoughts were that people on a vegetarian diet experience better teeth, and teeth is a good indication of overall health. So he thought vegetarians are healthier, and that's determined. You can tell that in their teeth. So he started this trip kind of all around the world, specifically looking at indigenous people in areas. So things like tribes in Africa, people out in kind of the North Pole and around, Eskimos and things. And he actually found the complete opposite, that the people with the greatest health and the greatest teeth were people that ate quite a high degree of animal-based products, specifically animal fats. So the work that he started back then was taken on when he died by a lady called Sally Fallon. Mm-hmm. She's the head of the Weston A Price Foundation now. And there's a whole load of articles and research paper on their website which detail the fact that we need these animal-based products for our health, for our mental health, our mind, our mental clarity, our skin, prevention and reversal of disease. So that was a game changer for me. So when I found that out, and specifically the one thing that I discovered that changed everything was the fact that saturated animal fats, unlike what the media would have us believe, and even some doctors, is not going to give us heart disease. It's not going to give us cancer. It's actually really healthy for us and necessary for our bodies to thrive. Mm-hmm. So when I discovered that one fact, the whole reason I got into veganism and a plant-based diet was because I thought that saturated animal fats was going to clog my arteries and kill me off early. So when I discovered that wasn't true, I came out of the plant-based diet and then found the ketogenic diet, which, as you know, is a high-fat diet, and tried that. So, yeah.
And here you are, healthy and thriving. And what a great journey you've been on. The key takeaways from that, Laura, is that you're happy to challenge yourself, and you're happy to challenge your current beliefs, your current norms, and find the truth, I guess. And along the way, you're a vegan for so many years because that was all you had access to and the knowledge you had. And then once you got new knowledge, you kind of updated your kind of systems and the way you eat. And I was listening to your podcast on your Eternal Health podcast, and I think it was episode 37, and we were talking about low carb, high fat, veganism, keto, and all the different ways. And one of the things I took away from that was that actually, the vegan way is another way of fasting. And you mentioned, going vegan for a period of time is a great way of fasting and detoxing the body. But it's not sustainable, which is exactly what you said, because we need some of these good fats in our diet to be able to absorb all the vitamins and minerals that we get from all the vegetables, which makes total sense, doesn't it? The fat soluble vitamins. I love that podcast. If anybody wants some more information on the difference between veganism, low carb, high fat, keto, high carb, low fat, then check out Laura's podcast, Eternal Health, episode 37. That's got some great information in there. Yes. So I guess just touching on keto. So for people out there who haven't heard a ketogenic diet or what keto is, and they've heard these terms bandied around, should we give them a bit of an overview as to what it all means and how it works?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. So I guess up front to say that the ketogenic diet, or the keto diet, it's a controversial diet. It's quite divisive. Some people will say that it's been a lifesaver for them. It's absolutely wonderful. It's given them so many benefits. There's a whole group of other people who would say it's dangerous. It's a fad diet. It's wacky. How can anyone? It's boring. It's quite a contentious diet, to say up front.
And I've experienced that myself. I was playing golf with a gentleman last year, and he asked me what I did, and I was talking about the ketogenic diet and fasting. He went, "Oh my gosh," he said, "I did the ketogenic diet because I had some health complaints and I wanted to lose weight. So I went to this clinic and they put me on the ketogenic diet and we talked about fasting." And he said, one of my friends said to me, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're crazy. You need to get yourself to the doctor right now. They're killing you." And I said, "Well, what were you eating?" And he said, meats and vegetables and good fats and, like a nice, healthy rounded meal. And I said, "And what were you eating before?" And he was saying McDonald's, Chinese, Indians. And I said, "So your friend didn't have a problem with you and you were eating all the rubbish food, and he didn't say, get to the doctors quick, you're going to die." Yet when you suddenly start eating clean, they're worried about you, because there is a bit of a stigma attached with the ketogenic diet, exactly as you're saying, and people are scared of it. So I guess, we're going to talk about, the fears and that in a bit. But getting back to the ketogenic diet, I just thought I'd add that because it was quite a funny story.
Yeah, totally. Isn't that the way that as soon as you kind of say that you're upgrading your diet in any way, but especially with the keto diet, suddenly everyone becomes a nutritionist and thinks that, you're going to die on this new diet that you've embraced on. But when you're eating just standard stuff, no one says anything. If you said you had 5 slices of cake yesterday, people probably say, yeah, totally. So keto is, it's controversial. And that whole reason, that you gave there, Lisa, with your experience with your golf friend. And that's what stopped me from looking at keto before. I had several people message me or email me saying, "Have you seen the keto diet?" And I was like, "No, this is dangerous." So to my folly, I ignored the keto diet for about 5 years. Then when I discovered all this work by Weston A and saw that saturated animal fat, the research clearly shows that it's not just not bad for you, it's actually very good for you. You've got to eat the right foods, but absolutely, animal fat is to be embraced. Then I dived into the keto diet, but I struggled with it initially. I still thought all this butter, and it was a mental struggle to make that switch from a low fat, high carb diet that I was on before to this reversal. So keto specifically, the macronutrients are very, they're quite tightly regulated. And there's a reason for that. So you want to be eating around about 80% of your daily calories from fats, which is super high, right? Super high. About 15% from protein and about only 5% from carbohydrates. So
for people out there, they're probably thinking, well, fats, gosh, that's a lot. And, protein. And so what would that look like if you were to put a plate in front of someone, just so they can visualize what that would look like?
Yeah. So firstly, to say that it's different from something like the Atkins diet, because people think keto is high protein, but it's not. It's actually moderate protein. So in answer to your question, what would it look like on a plate? So the majority, 80% of those calories on your plate are going to be from fat. So with that in mind, what does that look like? Okay, it can include a very fatty cut of meat. So something like chicken thighs with the skin on, a steak with all of the fat on it, although it doesn't have to be anything that decadent, or people worry about the expense of a keto diet. And as soon as I start talking about rump steaks and things, people think that it's super expensive. But it doesn't have to be. But it
can. Oily fish for people who aren't so keen on meat?
Yeah, absolutely. So oily fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines, any of those things. And then eggs, so pastured eggs, with the yolk, obviously. And this is where we get into the kind of keto alkaline aspect of things. Some kind of low carb vegetables, so leafy greens, kale, cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, anything that's green and leafy basically is going to be a good source of alkaline minerals and is going to be relatively low carb. So we want to be avoiding the higher carb foods and vegetables. So things like carrots, butternut squash, potatoes, sweet potatoes are off the table on a keto diet, as are fruits, as are any kind of grains. So there's no flour, there's no, beans, lentils, rice, pasta, any of that stuff. At which point people get very nervous and think,
can't eat anything. What am I eating? Loads.
Yeah. And isn't this boring? If that's the keto diet, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And obviously no sugar.
And I can vouch for it for myself because I was there. I had that t-shirt. I thought, I can't possibly do this. There's no way I can eat that. I'm going to get bored. And I have now become a bit of a whiz in the kitchen. I love cooking now, and I didn't before. And I'm like, well, what can I make tonight? And I'm starting experimenting, and I'm making curries and all different variations. So it's not just a piece of veg and a piece of meat on your plate. If anybody's thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be so boring and bland, we can spice it up. There's so many different ways you can cook a variation of different meals, and I'm totally converted. And I was one of those people that didn't really cook before. So if I can do it, if anyone's feeling, a bit kind of scared out there or worried or thinking I'm not sure I'd be able to do it, then trust me, if I can do it, then anybody can.
Yes, exactly. And I'm always a firm, I always really am clear on saying to people, my clients, when they come to me saying, oh, what can I eat? Am I going to feel really deprived? And there's always, whatever we like to eat as a non-keto person, there's always a keto alternative.
Yes.
So for example, only at the weekend, I went out with my family, and my mum, as a kind of belated birthday celebration, my mum made me a keto chocolate cake.
Yes.
And it was absolutely delicious. And had my family not have known that it was keto, they wouldn't have known. But actually, my little nieces and nephews, my little nephew James in particular, said, Nanny, this is the best chocolate cake I've ever had. And it was just delicious. Cakes made with almond flour with full buttercream icing, not this, vegetable oil-based rubbishy margarines, and laden with lots and lots of sugar. There's definitely kind of healthy sugar and sweetener alternatives that can absolutely be incorporated in a well-formulated, healthy keto diet. So people think, can I not eat desserts? No, you absolutely can on a keto diet. And as you've said, Lisa, and your experiences, I think, the experience of so many people, instead of feeling that this is restrictive, what can I eat? It opens the doors to a whole new way of eating and cooking that is just delightful. And especially because food manufacturers know that there's one of two things really that make food really palatable: sugar and fat.
Yeah.
The most hyper palatable foods and the most addictive of foods include both.
Combine them both, don't they?
Combine them both and add in the salt as well.
Yes.
So, if you think donuts, for example, fried donuts, chips, crisps, KFC, most of the fast food stuff has high sugar, high fat, and high salt, and that makes it super palatable and addictive. But you need either sugar or fat at the very least. So because we've been conditioned from probably the 1960s, 70s to follow, well, if we want good health, we need to follow a low fat diet. What's happened when we've taken the fat out of things? We've upped the sugar.
Yeah.
So what we're doing with keto is we're reversing that. We're taking out the sugar, and sugar is a major source of all sorts of degenerative disease, not least, diabetes, and heart disease, incidentally.
And it just goes to show out there, doesn't it? If the low fat way of working was going to work, then we wouldn't have all these modern day diseases, would we? And all the research shows that it all comes back to sugar. And I was misinformed before. I thought, fat's really bad and it's going to clog up my arteries and I'm going to have a heart attack. And actually, when you look at the research, it's the sugar that's the issue. And I guess we could speak for hours, and we could have whole different podcasts, couldn't we, on recipes and chocolate cakes and all sorts of things. But you're absolutely right. It's about reversing that mindset, isn't it? To think about, well, actually, we need to switch it from high sugar, low fat to, turning it on its head. And it's quite often it's just getting your head around that and trusting the research and trusting that, we got it wrong as a nation. We got it wrong internationally.
Yes, we did. And it would probably be good to speak about why and how we've got it wrong, because I think a lot of people think, well, if what we're saying here is the case, why doesn't everyone know about it? Why isn't my doctor recommending it? So it might be worth just digging into that. But let me just go back to what I was saying on, so either high fat or high sugar is what the food industries kind of focus on, if not both. So if we're taking out the fat, so if we think, skimmed milk, breakfast cereals that are low fat, all of these things are high sugar, and to be honest, they're quite boring, aren't they? If you think about the standard breakfast, which is some kind of highly pasteurized orange juice, which has got
full of sugar
in, even if it's like not got sugar added, it's still full of natural sugar and refined. Then you've got white bread toast with margarine, bland, totally unhealthy, going to spike your blood sugar, spike your insulin. That margarine that we're told is heart healthy is anything but heart healthy. That's the stuff that's going to clog arteries and cause, heart disease in the future. And then things like breakfast cereals, cornflakes with skimmed milk. It's not exactly tasty, is it? So you've got to add on extra sugar. Whereas switching that up on a keto diet, all of a sudden, all these tasty foods that we felt so guilty about eating for years are back on the menu. So butter, full fat butter, natural, a natural tasty product. Eggs, with yolks, as many as you want. We don't have to think, I can't eat more than one egg every few days because of the cholesterol. And no, like that's faulty.
It's all a myth.
Science. It's all a myth. Exactly. Bacon, sausages, we can eat those things. Now, what I would say on that is we need to be clear on the quality of our food.
Yes.
So, for example, bacon can have nitrates in it. It can have added sugar and all sorts of other flavorings and additives and things. So we want to be making sure that the source of the food we're eating is clean, it's minimally processed. But it means that we can have these foods that are naturally delicious to us. Who doesn't like a fry up? Who doesn't like cream and butter and eggs and, meat with the fat on it? That's what's tasty, isn't it?
I'm just thinking as you're talking about breakfast and all those things, and thinking back to when I was at university, I would have those things. So I'd have Weetabix with sugar on top with semi-skim milk.
Yeah.
And then I might have a crumpet with marmalade on and the margarine and maybe some cheese on top. And then a couple of hours later, I'd be hungry. I'd be thinking, I'm just got high metabolism. So that's why I'm hungry. So, because now we know it's my blood sugar levels that have dropped because I'd increased them so much at breakfast time. So I was constantly hungry, constantly eating. And now I've switched to the ketogenic way of living. I do fasting as well. So I don't get those sugar highs and the sugar lows. I don't get the crashes anymore. And, I can have the bacon and egg and avocado for breakfast. And then I'm not feeling hungry a few hours later. I'm actually feeling really full and I can go the whole day without having to eat because I'm not having those sugar highs and lows that I used to have. And it's just madness, isn't it, to think back as to how I used to eat and how I now eat. And it's just transforms people's lives, I guess.
Yes, isn't that the beauty of it? That we were able to, I always call it the blood sugar roller coaster, that we're able to step off that roller coaster. So, as you say, when we have a breakfast of toast, crumpets, Weetabix, we have this sugar rush or sugar high, even though we may not be eating overt sugars, even these healthy whole grains, they're just carbohydrates that our body breaks down very quickly into simple sugar. So, whatever kind of carbs we're eating all gets broken down to sugar. So then we have this elevation in our blood sugar. Our body then produces insulin. The hormone insulin is a response to that to lower the blood sugar. So then the blood sugar comes down. So after a couple of hours, we have this crash in energy. We're hungry again. So what do? Have another carbohydrate-based food. Blood sugar goes up, insulin released. And we're on this roller coaster, which goes like that, which means that all day long. Yeah. We're hungry. We're tired. We have to have coffee. We need a nap in the afternoons if we have the luxury of being able to do that. Generally not. Whereas, like you say, when we're eating a high fat diet it's worth saying at this point that we're using a whole different pathway of energy. So why the keto diet is so specific on its macros. So as we talked about, 80% roughly fats, 15 protein, 5% carbs, is because when we reduce the carbs right down, it forces our body to get into nutritional ketosis. So what it means is that instead of being a carb burner, constantly burning sugar, carbs are gone, which takes about 2 to 3 days for most people to deplete the body of all its sugar, blood sugar in the liver, in the bloodstream. And then it starts burning fat. So that can include body fat, which, the vast majority of us have got plenty of, but also our dietary fat from these new foods that we're eating as well. So our liver produces ketone bodies, they're called, just the scientific term for this breakdown of the fatty acids in the liver. So those 3 things are called beta hydroxybutyrate, number 1, acetoacetate, and acetone. Those are the 3 ketone types that our body produces. And then we use those as fuel instead. So interestingly, instead of this up and down blood sugar roller coaster, because eating fat doesn't produce an insulin response of any real kind, it means that our energy is stable. Fat is a much more prolonged fuel source, especially in the form of ketones. So we have stable mood, stable energy, not this vast hunger, elevation of blood sugar, then a crash. We just feel stable, calm. And the benefits on everyday, day-to-day life is, when you're sat in a meeting, you have the ability to concentrate and focus, and you're calm. When you're trying to deal with screaming kids, you have a level of resilience and buoyancy to deal with these things when we're trying to. So me as a writer, I wrote my second book last year in 4 months, which is kind of unheard of. I got my publishing deal and they wanted me to write the book like 2 weeks later, and I had 4 months to write the book, get it out, and then it was out and it's being sold now.
Massive congratulations.
Bless you. Thank you. And I know that there's no way I would have been able to do that and have the mental focus to sit and write for hours and hours each day if I wasn't using ketosis as a major tool. So for anyone who's looking...
That was one of the major benefits I experienced as well, Laura, especially chronic fatigue syndrome. I was constantly tired, constantly worried about feeling sleepy. How am I going to wake up in the morning thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through today? How am I going to get to work and back and function? And the minute I started doing the ketogenic diet, everything changed. And like you say, the mental clarity is so much sharper, isn't it? You can just do tasks so much easier. It's like, it's almost like, why wouldn't you do it just for the mental clarity side of things? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, well done for, that's really encouraging to hear. And I'll definitely be pointing my clients to this podcast. I've got several clients who've got chronic fatigue.
Really?
So that's great to hear.
Well, I was told at the age of 22 that I'd be in a wheelchair and here's some antidepressants, and I'm now 38 and not in a wheelchair, not on antidepressants. So I do have some clients that come through the doctor's surgery that've got chronic fatigue syndrome, and it just gives people hope that there's a different avenue and a different way, to heal.
Yeah, instead of feeling resigned to, what a depressing prospect to be told that at 22, and well done for, not accepting that and looking into different avenues. And
it's mind-blowing, really, isn't it, how our body can actually heal when we give it the right tools and space to do that. So
yes.
So sorry, we were talking about benefits.
Yes.
It's John. Yeah. I'm breaking in.
Hello.
Hi, John. Jump in.
I'll jump in and actually start my video too. This is fantastic. So can we talk about your program?
Sure.
Because let me just say, and actually I'm going to tell a short story, which is that Laura knows that I found out about her through Alkaline in Australia. And Ian Hamilton there said, yep, she's the real deal. So I jumped into your 5-day keto alkaline challenge on Facebook. And here's I'm just going to say, this is amazing. On the third day, on Wednesday, you sent out a list of keto alkaline foods. Kind of a short list, not the whole big thing. And I looked at the list after the call and I went, I love all this stuff. I can do this. So I went to my refrigerator, went to my cupboards, got rid of everything that wasn't on the list or was suspect, and then went to the grocery store, bought stuff that was on the list, started the program, and I'm getting great coaching from Laura. She's a great coach. And Friday, I went into ketosis.
Yay, well done.
Yeah, and it was like the most amazing experience I had. And, clarity of mind. And over a period of a couple of weeks, I had lost, I don't know, like 10 pounds or something. Not that I really needed to lose it, but my energy and clarity went way up. So
that's a massive credit to your program, Laura. Oh, yeah, great testimonial.
So anyway, I'm sorry, but I had to butt in because,
no apologies necessary.
Yeah, thank you, John. Well, it's great having you in the program. And I just remember it was so encouraging. Every time we had a call, you were like, I've got so much energy, more energy than in the last decade or so.
And I still do.
Do you? Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And that's nice to hear because many people who I work with have really severe health issues, but you came in with nothing really to speak of. So I guess, I personally think sometimes, well, how much can this do for someone who's not struggling with health? But, you're one of many people now who've gone through my Keto Life program without any, surface level health issues or anything major. And you've said this has had a profound positive impact. So that's super encouraging to hear. So thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to, So continue on, ladies.
Continue on. I guess on that note then, Laura, who can do keto and who's going to benefit from it? Because you're saying quite a lot of your clients come to you with some chronic health conditions. And yet we've got the lovely John Beethan who didn't have any surface health conditions, yet he's enjoyed the benefits of your program. And just before we go into who can do it and, who shouldn't do it, I get quite often a lot of cyclists will say to me, no, but I need my carbs for my bike ride.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what are you doing to your body while you're eating these carbs just for the sake of a bike ride? And actually, you can actually do a bike ride on burning fat for fuel instead. So who can do ketogenic and who can't?
Really good question. So, and that's interesting about kind of bike riders and endurance athletes who say, I need my carbs, because I was in that camp for years thinking, I as a marathon runner, I knew that when I'm 18 miles into a race, if I was to eat a tablespoon of coconut oil, that would do nothing for me in terms of, giving me energy to carry on in my race. Whereas a date or half a banana would. But here's the thing, because I experimented with that. And that's one of the reasons why I thought keto diet is ridiculous. It doesn't work and it's not going to work for endurance athletes. Of course, I didn't realize that it takes a period of time, not a long period of time, but I need to become a fat burner. So, typically that will take a period of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe. So if you're a sports person, you will experience, it's pretty much par for the course. When you first get into ketosis, you can expect a dip in your performance. That's just absolutely normal. So me as a complete newbie, as a carb burner, trying to have a tablespoon of coconut oil halfway through a marathon is not going to work. However, once I got into ketosis, it did work. We have to train our bodies to become fat burners. So who can this work for? Well, I would say everybody, with the exclusion of one type of person who I'll mention in a minute. Because here's the thing, as I mentioned earlier in the call, if it's true, which it is, that, millions of people are walking around at this point with metabolic syndrome, pre-diabetes, insulin resistance, and they don't really even know it, but they know that they feel tired, they feel fatigued, they have brain fog, they might be experiencing some peripheral health issues. We know that to be the case. We know that 1 in 2 people are getting cancer. 1 in 2 people are becoming diabetic. Heart disease is massive. Obesity is growing. We know these things. The ketogenic diet is an antidote to those things because it's the solution to metabolic disease. Yeah. What diseases are metabolic? Pretty much all of them. Yeah. Pretty much all of them. So we need to train our bodies and our brains to become fat burners, to utilize this different energy pathway. Now, that's not to say we have to do ketosis all of the time for the rest of our life. I know several people, lots of people, in fact, who are on keto long term and absolutely love it and they thrive. I've got one friend, Stephanie, who's in her 50s. She's been doing keto nonstop for over a decade. And she just looks younger and more healthy and more fit as the years go on. So she would say, absolutely, you don't need to come off this diet. And I've got lots of clients who've been in ketosis for over a year at this point, and they have no intention of coming off. But for anyone, you don't have to do it all of the time. But I would say, in my experience as a nutritionist of almost 20 years now, working with many hundreds, if not thousands of people at this point, we need to have the ability to burn fat for fuel. Yeah. It's absolutely important. So we're not constantly blasting our body with an insulin response, which will cause these degenerative diseases, one kind or another. That's pretty much a guarantee if we are constantly hammering our body with sugar, carbs, coupled with all the other unhealthy stuff, vegetable oils. So this can work really for anyone and everyone. I'm just going to bring up here, I'm in the middle of writing. I've written it. I'm in the middle of publishing a very detailed article on my website on the 21 solid benefits of a ketogenic diet. And there's something, I've got about 70 different research papers to back it up as well. So I'm just going to bring it up a minute and just outline the 21 things that this has been scientifically proven to really be beneficial for. So let me just...
And while you're bringing that up, Laura, I think one of the key things for people to understand is you've got to train your body to become a fat burner, because most of my life, and it's probably true for a lot of people out there, I had only ever been a sugar burner. I was only ever tapping into my glucose tank. So when we talk about being a sugar burner, I was constantly feeding myself with carbohydrates. So I was constantly topping up my sugar tank, and I could never, ever, ever tap into my fat tank. And what I had to do was I had to train my body to tap into those fat sources and use fat for fuel. So you're absolutely right. It's about training your body, isn't it, to become a fat burner rather than a sugar burner. And most people out there that I come in contact with, they're sugar burners. So of course they're fearful of, well, I can't possibly go for more than 2 hours with eating, or I can't possibly cut sugar out my diet or carbs because I've got to run a race. It's that fear, isn't it, of not knowing the benefits of using fat for fuel, which I guess are part of your 21 points.
Yeah, and you're right. You have to train your body. It doesn't take a long period of time, but if we're eating a diet that's significant in any way in carbohydrates, then our body will always favor, it will take the carbs and store the fat. We want to be doing the reverse. We want to be lowering the carbs, burning the fat, eating the fat, burning the fat. And that we need to train our body to do that, because if we've been eating a carb-based diet for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, there's going to be a little transition period. So I would say as a coaching point, just ride that out. Just like when I was a smoker for 7 years, when I gave up smoking, was there a period of withdrawal? Absolutely. Was it worth getting over that period of withdrawal? Yes, of course, to be free of that horrible habit and, to reap the health benefits from giving up smoking. So it's the same kind of thing. There will be, just accept and embrace the fact that there will be a little period, not particularly long, not particularly hard, if we're having a well-formulated keto diet with lots of alkaline minerals, but ride it out and then push through to those benefits of being a fat burner. So I'm just going to rattle through 21. And this is like a 5,000 word article that I'm posting on my website on youreternalhealth.com in the next week or so. So feel free to check that out. But positive benefits of the ketogenic diet for leaky gut, inflammation, sugar cravings, weight loss. I mean, obviously, we haven't even talked about weight loss, but I've got people who've lost 50 to 100 pounds on a ketogenic diet that I've worked with.
It's massive, isn't it? And people want to lose weight, but it's actually get healthy and then the weight loss will follow, because once you're healthy, you'll lose the weight.
Exactly. So autophagy, which, you mentioned you do a lot of fasting, Lisa. That's another great way of sparking autophagy, which is a cleaning of cleaning and regeneration and recycling of cells. So that's good for anti-aging, healing of inflammation, and all that kind of stuff. Great for prevention and reversal of diabetes. We talked about that. Yes. Sleep and energy, brain function, depression and anxiety, which is often a surprising for many people to hear that this is the diet that can really help with addressing depression and anxiety. Dementia and Alzheimer's as well. Epilepsy, autism, again, another surprising one. Cancer, heart disease, fertility and hormones, athletic performance, eczema and psoriasis, eye health and cataracts, fatty liver disease, better mood and calm mind. And I've put an extra one, more money, because in my experience, I mentioned earlier with my book, on a keto diet, you are just more productive. So whether you're in business, whether you're a parent, whether you're working in a job, the enhanced productivity and time that you'll get from being on a ketogenic diet is, can make you more money at the end of the day, and will increase your output in your effectiveness in life.
And who doesn't want more time and more money?
Exactly.
Everybody.
Exactly.
We're all running around like busy fools at the minute, aren't we? Juggling life. And exhausted as a result, because we're on the carbohydrate train rather than the fat train. So there's some awesome benefits in there, and I know you've rattled through them, and I don't know if anyone's not sold now, then they perhaps need to speak to you in some more detail on a one-to-one. So
if I may give a tip, I'd show it to you, John. I'd show it to you, but at the top of my grocery list, right at the top, it says burn ketones, not carbs.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So when I go shopping, that's the first thing I see. I'll have a whole list of foods below it, but it's just a reminder, and it makes it a lot easier for me.
It's a great reminder, isn't it? Because the mind's so powerful, and we can be easily tempted, can't we, with all the labeling and the fancy boxes and packaging that jump out at us. So what a great tip, John. Thank you for sharing. That is great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
So just very quickly, Laura, we talk about balancing electrolytes, because if someone is keen to kind of try this out, it's really important to balance the electrolytes. So can we just touch on that and what that means just very quickly?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that people who just kind of dive into keto, and a lot of people do it, they just go in a bit gung-ho. They find some kind of, there's an infinite amount of blogs online, keto blogs with keto recipes. So it's very tempting just to do a Google search, find some keto recipes and go for it. And, some people have success. Many people fail on that for one major reason. And that's that keto, as hopefully we've kind of got across today, is a very powerful diet. I equate it to, it's kind of like the F1 of diets, so the Formula One of diets. Now, like a Formula One car, it's this powerful machine, but it has to be handled right. So if you're not used to driving this machine, you can't just get in it and put the foot down and go. You'll probably run into some problems. And it's the same with this diet. So you need to know that on a keto diet, because we're not burning carbs, and carbs hold on to a lot of water. One carbohydrate molecule holds on to, I think, 4 molecules of water. So when we get the carbs out of our diet, we expel a lot of water. Mm-hmm. Along with that goes mineral electrolytes from our body. So what are they? They're alkaline minerals. I mentioned them already. Potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sodium are the main 4. So we are going to be depleting our body at a greater rate than on a carb burning diet of these essential electrolytes. These electrolyte minerals are important for things like muscle function, heart good heart regulation, detoxification of cells. So we have what's called a potassium sodium pump, which is responsible for regulating our heartbeat, but also getting toxic waste out of the cells. And if the balance is not right between potassium and sodium, it means that we'll probably experience heart palpitations, sleeplessness, and insomnia. Detoxification will be impaired. So we need to make sure that we're getting enough of these minerals and also the right balance of them. So that's where having a very well formulated keto plan is key for success. Otherwise, we can experience these negative side effects, which collectively are termed as keto flu. And, we don't want to be experiencing that for a prolonged period. Headaches, tiredness, because we can think, oh, this super diet isn't working, come off it, feel discouraged, and never try it again. And that would be a real shame because, there's so many benefits to be had on a keto diet. So that's where I've taken my years of experience in the plant-based field and eating these alkaline, mineral-rich foods. And I've written 2 books at this point on the alkaline diet. Combine the keto diet with these alkaline foods, so leafy greens, that type of thing. And that's where you have in my view, the best diet for health, healing, weight loss, energy. And we can minimize those side effects when we first get into ketosis and become a fat burner. And that's why I created my program Keto Life as that plan.
Awesome, Laura. And so much information. I'm sure people are going to be thinking, how can I get my hands on your program? How can I get my hands on your book? And if someone wants to read your book, what are your books? You've written 2 books now. So what are they called and how can people get hold of those?
Well, so my alkaline books are called the Alkaline 5 Diet and the 21-Day Alkaline Diet Plan. They are not keto books. I'll just say I wrote my first book as a vegan. That was published on Hay House in 2015. My later book was, I was given a brief by my publisher, a new publisher, who wanted a plant-based diet again. So the best way to access this stuff is through my Keto Life program or my Keto and Low Carb Coaching Club monthly membership program. Different price points for each. So, I would say to people listening, check them both out. I've got a $7 trial on my Keto and Low Carb Coaching Club membership. So you can just try it, experience a meal plan for a month. You get a training with it and a coaching call. So, that's a really great way to have a taster, so to speak, of this stuff. But my Keto Life program is really like the best way people can experience this because there's 80 videos in there which dive into, okay, what kind of fats can I eat? What kind of vegetables can I eat? Can I eat any fruits? What type? There's about 80 recipes as well. And I'm a foodie, so I've spent a lot of time in the kitchen preparing these recipes and really finding that sweet spot, excuse the pun, between super healthy, keto and alkaline, and tasty, delicious foods like strawberry fat bombs and healthy chocolate.
Aren't they amazing?
Cakes.
I love fat bombs.
They are, aren't they?
A whole different world.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. A whole different world.
Yeah, amazing. So, yes. And then there's kind of weekly coaching calls with me as well and whole guidebooks and a 21-day meal plan, because my advice to anyone considering a keto diet is you have to do it at least for 3 weeks straight, because it will take the first week to get used to, okay, what are the dietary changes? It will take another week for your body to get used to, okay, we're in ketosis and we're not starving here. And then the 3rd week and beyond, you'll start experiencing, the real sweet spot of becoming fat adapted and a fat burner. So my program Keto Life is available from ketolifetime.com. You can download a free food list from there initially, join a free 5-day challenge that John talked about that he joined about a year ago. And then you'll get emails about my Keto Life program, and also on my website, youreternalhealth.com. I'm resurrecting my podcast currently on that website, and there's more details about both my Keto Life program and Keto and Low Carb Coaching Club.
And if people aren't already excited and signing up right now, then they need to get onto your websites. And thank you so much for sharing all that information. I've checked out your programs as well, and they are amazing. And I just would like to add to people considering this is please do reach out to an expert like Laura. You can Google so many things these days. And, if you Google keto, you can get dirty versions of keto, clean versions of keto. But, Laura's expertise and research over the last 20 years has been put into a really good program. So please don't just go frivolous on Google and think I can do this by myself, because, the other thing you do as well, Laura, is you hold people's hands through this transition, and you do the coaching calls, which I think is really important. Because left to our own devices, we can kind of think this isn't working. Why is this happening to me? And having someone to be able to talk to is really important. So fantastic that that's included in your program. And what a great call today. I've loved every second of it. And
thank you, Lisa.
Very insightful. So,
yes, yeah. I've enjoyed it too. And I think just on that last point you made, someone to hold your hand through this. The fact is that if you decide in your mind, I'm going to try the keto diet, as you said, Lisa, as I've experienced, if you mention that to people, whether that's friends, family, work colleagues, or whoever, you need to be prepared for some pushback. People will have an opinion. It's likely to be a negative one. And you're not, unless say your husband or wife are deciding to do this with you, it's very unlikely you're going to have support from people around you. You're going to have people saying, do you want to come out for a meal? We're going to an Indian restaurant, and you're going to be faced with, okay, do I go to this meal? And if I do, what do I eat? And then you're going to have people saying, what are you eating? Why are you choosing these foods? So, you need to be prepared for some pushback questions and to swim against the tide to a degree from what your doctor might tell you, friends and family. And the best way to do that is to be within the cushioning of a support group, and to have someone who can just encourage you and say, keep going, you're doing the right thing, answer any questions about your specific circumstances as well. And I hope that, that's one of the things I've really tried to do with Keto Life is we have a relatively small group. It's not hundreds and hundreds of people. So, I get to know people by name, and we can support each other in that, because at this point in time, hopefully it might be a very different story 5-10 years down the line. But at this point in time, keto is cutting edge for most people. And we need to, in the beginning stages of our journey into keto, be surrounded by like-minded people who can support us.
That's a really important point there. It's knowing that you're doing it for your own health, isn't it? And not listening to the naysayers. And if it feels right for you, then go and try it, but speak to an expert. I work in a doctor's surgery, and they've got a resident nutritionist who purely sees patients to coach them in keto and intermittent fasting.
Wow.
To help with diabetes, to help with high blood pressure, cholesterol, weight gain, pre-diabetics, all of the things we've talked about today. And it's a really forward-thinking surgery, which is amazing, because the doctors recognize that they're a specialist as a doctor, but they're not a specialist in nutrition. And if anybody out there thinking, well, my doctor says it's not a good idea, it's perhaps because they haven't had access to all the information that you and I have had, and the nutritionist in the doctor's surgery that I work with. So it's about listening to people who've had the knowledge and the research and the qualifications, rather than people who've just got an opinion.
Yeah. That's amazing that your surgery does that.
It's very forward thinking, isn't it? It's phenomenal. Yeah. Laura, fantastic. It's been awesome having you on the show. John, if you're still there, I know you'll have probably really enjoyed listening to it. And thanks once again for producing this amazing episode with Laura. And I'm your host, Lisa Victoria, and I'll speak to you all very soon.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, John. Always a pleasure. And thank you.